whereabouts of this band could be your life. And this week we're going to be talking about one of my favourite bands. We're talking about King Crimson. King Crimson, one of the most monolithic, confusing, strangest bands to ever come from Britain, in my opinion. The fact that they're still going today is honestly kind of like a miracle. Like, I actually don't know how they're still going.
Hey, the Stones are still going.
Yeah.
Pink Floyd are still going.
Pink Floyd.
Are Pink Floyd actually still going? Or have they just, after Richard Wright, have they just gone?
Yeah. Stopped, yeah. I think it was like probably rumblings after the Live Aid concert of them getting back together, but I think when Richard Wright died, no pun intended, kind of put the nail in the coffin. I don't think they wanted to do anymore. David Gilmour's appeared with like Roger Waters and stuff like on tour and stuff on his solo tour. So, but anyway, that's another band. That's another prog band. So we're talking about King Crimson. That's one of the strangest histories of any bands ever. If you're into like band history, there's so much to unpack with King Crimson. We started back in 1968, broken up numerous times, split up numerous times, and the central architect of it all, well, he's a weird figure, this guy, he's called Robert Fripp, where he's kind of a central architect, but he's kind of not as well. He kind of lets the music dictate whether it's like King Crimson or not. He kind of has become that now, but certainly he more liked to surround himself by musicians who didn't always get along, musicians who would have almost like that inner conflict between each other, because I guess in his eyes it create exciting, interesting music, which you could definitely hear on a lot of them, especially the mid-70s ones, Larks Tongues and Starless and Red, but we'll get there basically. So we'll start off in 1968.
It's swinging England, baby. Shagadelic, yeah.
The 70s are dawning. The hippie dream is pretty much dead. All sorts of contextual stuff which you've probably heard a million times before.
Satanic Majesty's Ritual has not been the hit that the Stones expect it to.
Yeah, the Rolling Stones are coming up so much, yeah. And kind of out of this kind of weird milieu comes what's widely regarded to be one of the greatest prog albums of all time. And I actually have a physical copy here of the vinyl. It's in the Court of Kings and Crimson.
Surely you don't also own a CD.
I do. I actually, these I do collect vinyl, not as much these days, and a lot of my CDs are gone, but I do still own the King Crimson 40th Anniversary Series editions, remixed by Stephen Wilson back in 2009. So
you have a 5.1 player as well. Have you ever listened to it on 5.1?
I've not listened to this one. I've only listened to, I think, Larks Tongue, which sounds amazing. Not this one though. And becoming like your nice paraphernalia, your nice books. They're very nice, and they're pretty much the only CDs I've still got now because I got rid of most of them. But I like the King Crimson ones a lot. So the album was actually released in 1969, and it's a strange fusion of jazz, classical, symphonic music, rock, freeform instrumentation, experimental mood pieces, and influenced a whole generation of artists, basically. Definitely regarded as being one of the early kind of big statements of progressive rock music.
Well, it's interesting now that you mentioned jazz, because in the same year Miles Davis did In a Silent Way, which is sort of the melding of jazz into sort of rock, and he did Bitches Brew the year after, so it's like, there's definitely something about breaking down those musical boundaries between jazz and rock within this sort of era. Yeah.
That's kind of definitely kind of what they were about. King Crimson took the music very, very seriously. There's no jokes in King Crimson. I read a review of like a recent concert they did. One of the comments was like, it was great. Fripp even smiled a couple times. It just tells you everything about that band, really. But they took the music seriously, but it never kind of felt like like indulgence. In the Call of the Crimson King is innovative in numerous different ways. It was one of the first albums to make heavy use of the mellotron, a hugely influential instrument used by loads of different prog bands at the time to kind of give things like an ethereal sound which couldn't really be captured through like a traditional organ or piano. All sorts of huge recording techniques for hugely complicated songs, and one of the most recognisable album covers of all time, you know.
Yep, you can see people in shirts all over England.
Yeah, everyone wears this, and it's just wonderful, isn't it? Like, you know,
it's very cool. Is this the 20th century schizoid man himself?
It could be, or it could be. Oh, look at that! Oh, so cool. This is just, yeah. I mean, even though we're signed doing this series, you know, by virtue of what we've got, like, we're both into like music streaming a lot these days.
Mm-hmm.
It's just something about a big hunk of cardboard, which, you know, just. It's just nice, you know.
And yet, like when we're talking about Swans and all, when I used to have the Glowing Man on vinyl, picking up those free, you had opened up like a book because there were free discs and stuff. Like, yeah, it is very cool.
Pink label and stuff, and I mean, you know, fuck the environment. You know what I mean? Like, I want my late 60s prog music.
Here's a contrarian opinion. Is Robert Fripp responsible for climate change after those 20 disc deluxe editions?
Oh god.
Did they do in the Court of the Crimson King on the 20 disc?
They did, but it was kind of like the early days of like those monster box sets, so I think it's on like 6-8 discs. There's same for Larks Tongue.
Yeah.
I mean, after that, they started doing the monster box sets, like the 20 discs, the 30 discs. Just mad, absolutely mad. So yeah, it's a cornerstone album in music recording. It's recorded in one of the most influential programs of all time. But we've not talked about what we as contemporary listeners in 2019, 50 years later, 50 years, that's nuts. 50 years later, think of this album. Suppose since I gave you King Crimson to listen to, what did you think of In the Court of the Crimson King?
I think this is the weakest of the three that I listened to. I think it's quite good. I love the song Epitaph.
Oh, yeah, I love that song.
I actually think the weakest song is 20th Century Schizoid Man, which I think the ending sounds a bit silly, where it goes like... Oh,
I love that bit. Yeah, I love that.
I think that was the thing. That and that because the one I heard before was this album and Red. Is that the one with the actual song Starless on?
Yeah, which I love that song.
Yeah, but like I enjoy them more. Like the other songs are great. Like what's the second one called? I Talk to the Wind.
Talk to the Wind, yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Moonchild and Epitaph. Like just the way it is. Yeah, as you say, more ephemeral and yeah, it has like a dreamlike quality that I didn't expect from like King Crimson. I thought they were more like a Yes type, you know, epic like wow band. But yeah, it's very different from
King Crimson. Like, you know, they are, you know, they really do stand out, I think, from like contemporary like prog bands. Even though I like a lot of the contemporary prog bands from that time, like you know, I love Peter Gabriel's Genesis. I have a begrudging respect for Yes, even though I don't really like the music that much. But it's very silly.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's all about it's fairy tales and fancy, and there's definitely elements of that in the Court of the Crimson King.
Well, Moonchild a little bit more.
Yeah, definitely. The lyrics were written by a chap called Peter Sinfield.
I've heard of him before. Is he in a different band or something?
Well, he wrote lyrics for pretty much every single famous artist from the 80s you can think of. Like, he's a hugely influential figure, but his poetry, as it's often called, is... Fripp's such a strange man. Like, he doesn't look very well at a lot of his early stuff. He kind of says like, oh, you know, the lyrics are a bit shit. And Peter Sinfield's self-indulgences definitely come out a little bit, like on the later albums, and he only did like the first 4 with King Crimson, and then he kind of moved on. But you can definitely tell like a lot of like his indulgences come out a bit. There's one song on Islands which is called Ladies of the Road, which is just terrible. It's absolutely awful. It's all about and it's really racist as well.
Oh no.
And sexist and misogynist, and basically it's all about all the ladies that King Crimson met on the road because we're all lining up to go sleep with Fripp. You know what I mean? Like.
I stopped, I kissed her, said I'm a male resistor. I smiled and just unzipped her. I dive in Chinese trender, said please me no surrender. just love to feel your fender. Oh, you know that the girls on the road are like apples we stole in our youth. Oh no! Ate all the meat I gave her. Said, would I like to taste her? Like that last fish bone. Oh, lady, hit the road.
But yeah, back to the album. Yeah, so definitely by comparison, like I think by the fact that they do take it seriously, a bit more than like, but without the self-importance, it kind of you take it seriously as well. Like, you know, you listen to something like Tales on Topographic Oceans, for example, and it's so ridiculous, and the concept's so austere, and they just lost upon you. But I think with this, because they take it seriously, you kind of take it seriously. But I think I really like this album. I've always really liked it.
Yeah. I think it's a lot more grounded than I expected as well. Like, yeah, you listen to even bands that weren't prog of this era, like The Doors or something, or you know, like, or the Stones or the Beatles or something. Like, you compare the environment. Like, is this the same album year as the White Album?
I think
68.
the White Album was 68. Yeah.
So yeah, you know, like it's just so different from all those. It's quite a compact. Like, it's only about 45 minutes. But yeah, it still holds up a lot. I just,
think it does,
20th
yeah.
Century Schizoid Man. I don't know why that's the most famous one. Right?
Yeah,
It's the worst on the album.
Yeah, I think that's probably fair. Even like I re-listened to it recently, and you know, one I used to not care for much was Moonchild. But
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, like, when I re-listened to it, I was kind of like, yeah, I really like the interplay between, I think it's the Mellotron and whatever weird stuff. It was always a kind of interplay between the two, like the drums and stuff, and definitely like a lot more, yeah, kind of more experimental. But it adds to the mood of the album, and it's a really nice way of going into the final song in the Call of the Crimson King, which I still think is a killer song. Like, it's
Great
so
song,
good.
yeah.
I love it. It's one of my favourite fake outs in music, where you think the song's over, and then the melody comes back on the Mellotron, do, 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 do. Then it just kicks back in, and like, I love that. I think it's great. And yeah, so it's one that I think's over-listened a lot, over-explained a lot.
Well, it is the King Crimson album.
That's
I
the
think,
thing.
yeah.
That's the thing where I've got a slight begrudging, like it's like grievance with it. Because for a lot of people, this one is. Oh, I can't even do this. Oh, it's on the face. But like, for a lot of people, this is the King Crimson album. You know, I talked to my partner's dad, and he's from the era.
Yeah.
He actually served Robert Fripp in a vegetarian restaurant.
Really?
He could write a book about the stories in this vegetarian restaurant, and he like met Robert Fripp and stuff. And but for him, like, this is it.
Okay.
You know, like, he loves this album, adores this album, but like, you know, that's it. I keep saying to him, like, man, you gotta listen to Larks Tongues, you gotta listen to Discipline, you gotta listen to Frack. But he's like, I'm not interested.
I will give it one thing: it's better than Filth.
Yeah, it's better than Filth, definitely. It's a classic album, I think, rightly regarded so. So from there, the band disintegrates. Like, you know, this band constantly change lineups, and we could be here all day talking about the different lineups, but pretty much for the next 3 albums, leading up to our one we're going to talk about next, it's a band of friction. It's a band that just disintegrates with members. People, you know, Fripp pulls in favours from people. Oh, come on, please play bass on this album, or please sing. And we didn't mention that, like, Greg Lake is the lead singer on this album.
From Emerson, Lake and Palmer.
Yeah, just the one. And he left King Crimson to form the supergroup with those other 2 guys. I'm not fond of them at all. But you know, like, Greg Lake did come back as a favour to Robert Fripp on the next album, In the Wake of Poseidon, which I kind of flip between liking and not liking. It pretty much copies the same formula as in the Call of the Crimson King. You know, quite a powerful opening, a slower second track, a more spacious third song. So you know, it's all right. It's all right. There's a huge waste of space, which is like 20 minutes, which is like the final song, which is the take on Mars. You know, like the classical piece of music. And the band disintegrates again. Fripp hires a couple of new people, and they definitely move more into the jazz side of things in Lizard.
Oh, that's quite a famous. That's got a famous cover as well.
Yeah, it's the one with like it's kind of like all medieval and stuff. And I like Lizard quite a lot. It wasn't an album that was very well regarded for the longest time by King Crimson fans, but then Stephen Wilson did a transformative remix, which is just brilliant. Like, it's so good. The album itself, you know, outside of how amazing it sounds, I think is pretty good. Made by the stunning 25-minute title track, which is called Lizard, which does have John Anderson from Yes sing for like the first 5 minutes, and then he kind of buggers off. But then it's just a piece of classical music. I love it. Like, I get chills listening to it. It's just a really nice piece of music.
Yeah.
And then after that lineup disintegrates again. And then they pull themselves together for Islands, the last one with Peter Sinfield. One that I didn't really kind of like that much when I listened to it twice, but then on a second listen, I liked it a lot more. The title track, the 50-minute title track, is a gorgeous piece of music. But unfortunately, it's marred by Ladies of the Road, which is just terrible. So anyway, that version of the band disintegrates again. Fripp's kind of like, you know, what am I going to do? What's next for King Crimson? How can I take things further? Which is why the second album I picked, over the more famous Red album from this period, I picked Larks Tongues in Aspic. So it's 1973, and Fripp has somehow weathered the tide of multiple lineup changes, different musicians coming and going, veering towards different styles, more on jazzy side. But after the Islands band version of the band disintegrates, he wants to go for something markedly different. Hires a few different musicians, the legendary John Wetton, who was the vocalist and bass player, who would go on to be the frontman of Asia.
Oh, what was their song? Didn't they have a big hit?
Famous one, yeah. But it's quite different to John Wetton's quite different on these albums than he is like on Asia. They hire Bill Bruford, the drummer from Yes, and David Cross, who's like a violinist and plays the mellotron, and an actual crazy man. Called Jamie Muir, I think his name, Muir, I don't know how you say it, but he's an honest to go crazy man who did like additional percussion.
Okay.
You gotta watch video footage of this guy playing because he's insane. Like, he left after this album, but it was hugely influential on all the other four musicians because he introduced Eastern European classical music to them, which is a huge influence on Larks Tongues, especially the two title tracks.
Yeah.
Like, he was only around for this album. He quit the band to become a Buddhist monk, and he just left the music industry. Really weird, but he left an undeniable impact on both members of the band. Sorry, on all members of the band. So Larks Tongue is marked by experimentation, longer instrumentals, not that many lyrics. Robert Fripp hired a guy to do the lyrics, and he used to send the lyrics as postcards to him. Like, it's just really weird. Like. Because that's kind of not what this version of the band was about. This version of the band was about improvisation.
Yeah.
There's a reason why people obsess over those 20, 30 disc box sets, because most of the songs on the albums are all based around the jams that they did.
Oh, okay.
So the basically wasn't the same version of the song each night, or they'd play new stuff, which they were just them just freeform improvising.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Larks Tongue is a good one to pick from the series, because this version of the band basically made 3 albums together. Larks Tongue, Starless and Bible Black, which is my personal favourite of the 3, but I think Larks Tongue's a better kind of intro to this era. And Red, which is a bit more mainstream, it's a bit more streamlined, but I still think it's a really good album. And definitely kind of the more famous one for how it influenced post-rock bands and math rock and that sort of stuff. So yeah, what did you think of Larks Tongues in Aspic?
Yeah, I really liked it. It's a great album. It takes what I liked about the middle set of songs from In the Court of the Crimson King, And yeah, you can definitely feel that emphasis on instrumentation and mood over like the lyrics to this, like, you know, they're not exactly beautifully written poetry or anything,
No.
but they just blend in so well. Like the one that has like the second track, is it Month of Saturdays?
Oh yeah, I love that song.
That song is great. Like just 2 minutes of like nonsense lyrics basically set to this beautiful little like guitar bit.
And I like the violins as well, like David Cross's violins. I love John Wetton's voice. You know, he sounds like, you know, like someone who's been like in a whiskey jazz bar for way too long, and like I think someone described him as almost like he's got like marbles in his mouth. Like the way he sings and stuff, and I love that song.
And on Easy Money, he's got a great voice as well.
I love Easy Money. That's like the one they play. That's like one of their classics. They play that at pretty much like every single concert now. But yeah, Easy Money's a great song. And
the way the songs, like, they all just sort of melt into each other as well. So I think it's a much more consistent album than In the Court of the Crimson King as well.
So.
And like it just sounds so much more like. It's interesting that Discipline, the one afterwards, is seen as the one that, obviously not the one afterwards, the one I listened to afterwards, is seen as like the new wave one, because this seems to have like more like a bit of a post-punk kind of, like, it's got really clean sound. It sounds like Television and almost and stuff, like the band Television, not the sound that TV makes.
It's interesting because it came out in '73 as well, so you think about this coming out, like, you know, compared to everything else that was kind of going on in that period of music where it's not a very well regarded period, you know. You got all your prog bands and stuff, you got the height of the Indulgence and stuff, and again, King Crimson, they don't really follow that crowd, you know. Like, I think to release an album where 20-25 minutes of it is experimental Eastern European influenced classical music is quite bold. Great album cover as well. Like this is the I don't have the vinyl of this one yet, but that's it. It's pretty cool. Really good. This is I'm gonna have a really good 5.1 remix. Yeah, in fact, I've listened to it. Yeah, this is really good. The space of the instrumentations are amazing.
And like the first track, the last one, and Talking Drum, almost like ambient as well. Like because after this he made Eno/Fripp, didn't he? The sort of ambient ones.
No pussyfooting.
No pussyfooting.
He started. I guess we'll briefly talk about some of the Fripp solo stuff he did after this, but so like, you know, those bookends of those two, you know, the more slowly revealing part one, which again I think puts a lot of emphasis on space, and I love whatever that kind of weird like tingling, jangling opening is, which opens up the song, and then the slowly building of all the instrumentation. It's almost kind of like the curtains raising on this version of King Crimson. You know, you've got a bit from the violinist, a bit from the bass player, a bit from Fripp himself, Bill Bruford's incredible drumming, which is just like, it's unreal.
And I think it builds into like the like obviously the first King Crimson album, where it's got really heavy sound on 20th Century Schizoid Man. You get a little bit of that on the title track, where it builds to like some jamming, but not. But because it has the 5 minutes of build up, I think it's really effective when it actually does come in. And
I think when it kind of breaks down into like, you know, kind of like the slightly more like free form, but you know, dong 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 do do do, like it feels a bit more satisfying, I think. Than kind of how it's done on like Schizoid Man. But I love when it's refrained for part two right at the end of the album, when it's a lot more powerful, a lot more forceful. Like Fripp's riffing on that is absolutely incredible, and the bass playing, and there's such skilled musicians, and most of it's all improvised. Which is the incredible thing, you know. Bill Bruford has got loads of like great stories about being in King Crimson at this time, and he basically said the equivalent of joining King Crimson was almost like going behind the Berlin, you know, going to your side of the Berlin Wall, kind of thing. Like, you really want to do that? Are you sure? Kind of thing, because you know you weren't expected to play a song; you were just expected to know what to do next. I find it incredible that such skilled musicians, just through knowing music so well and, you know, the rhythm and timings and stuff, you know, they could just improvise this sort of music and expect the other one to know. Right, I'm gonna do this now. Oh, okay, I'm gonna do that. Right,
Well, it is more common in jazz than rock, like you're saying. Like, you get these again, like Miles Davis at the time or something, making like 2 hour long jams on stage and stuff. Like,
I mean, like me personally, like I've never been that into jazz. Like I can respect it as a genre of music, but you know, we talk about melody a lot. I prefer it when they take the elements I like from jazz, which is kind of a more experimental improvisation, freeform stuff. But I personally wouldn't. I don't really go in for jazz personally, but I like it used in other things. So I like it distilled here. So So yeah, so the bookend songs are great. I think they're brilliant. And yeah, the middle songs I think are really good as well. So Book of Saturday we mentioned. Exiles I think's okay. Easy Money's killer. I love that song. And you know, Jamie Muir, who was kind of the additional percussionist, he did all sorts of strange instrumentation. Like, I don't know if you noticed on the opening, you know, like where it's the opening riff, there's like the sludging sounds and stuff.
Yeah.
Like he did all that stuff, and the bells and seriously, like you watch a video of this guy performing with them, and he's a crazy man.
Yeah.
Like he just goes around just doing random stuff on stage, and we just let him loose.
Did he ever have a bust of Mozart next to him?
Probably. You know, like in one of his early music videos, he wears like a big like furry coat, so it looks a bit like a caveman. He's like got a big beard, and he's kind of ginger as well, so he looks crazy. Like such a fun song. And the talking drum, I think the way it kind of builds up, there's the like a very simple refrain, and the way the bass kicks in later, and like I think it's ace. I think it's really good. I really like the album.
Cool. So what did they do between this and Discipline?
Okay.
I've actually heard some of the stuff they did between this. Not King Crimson, but he most famous thing's probably the Bowie.
Yeah, definitely.
Was it just on Heroes?
I think he's on like Scary Monsters and stuff as well.
Oh yeah, he is.
He's on a bunch of stuff. So after Larks Tongue, this version of the band quickly started to disintegrate again. I'm going to say a common factor here, you know, the old guy who sticks around, you know. Yeah, this version of the band started to disintegrate. It really kind of comes to a front on Styles and Bible Black, where they're fed up of, you know, playing this incredibly complicated music where so much is expected of them. Jamie Muir, as I said earlier, leaves to become a Buddhist monk. Styles and Bible Black was an album where they weren't in the studio that much. Most of it's live music.
Yeah.
And it's my personal favourite one of the three that this version of the band did together. Mostly because it ends on one of their best instrumentations called Fracture.
Yeah. Which
Robert Fripp says is the most complicated King Crimson song he's ever played. Like, you know, I think one of the I can't remember who it is. So someone in the recent touring bands basically says like, you know, when they started playing it live on the recent tours, he had to like compose himself to play it because otherwise he'd get like panic attacks about it because it is such a monumental piece of music. It's great. I really love it. And then so then after that we do Red. Fripp wasn't that involved in it, which is maybe why it's a little bit. I think it was the violinist leaves. He contributes some stuff to Red, but not a lot. But most of it is kind of powered by John Wetton, who I think kind of maybe shows slightly more like mainstream sensibilities on the album. I like Red a lot. I think Red is. I think if you can listen to a second King Crimson album, it's one that most people probably listen to.
Yeah.
I think it's really great. It's really good, but I definitely prefer the first two, even though it ends on what I think is the amazing Starless.
He was in the film Mandy recently.
But Starless is cool in that, it brings back a lot of the previous people who performed on King Crimson albums. So it almost becomes like a really weird potted history of the band.
Yeah.
Like there's saxophones done by the guy from one of the previous albums. So it almost curtails this period of the band because effectively from here it ends. So as we mentioned, Fripp does all sorts of different stuff. He goes off and collaborates with Brian Eno.
Yeah.
He goes off and does stuff for Heroes for David Bowie. Plays on the title track. Starts to develop Frippatronics, his mad style like guitar playing.
Yeah.
And he does stuff. He does a solo album as well. Does some solo stuff.
Have you ever listened to them?
I have listened to. I can't remember what it's called now. It might be called Fracture or something like that. But it's pretty good. I quite liked it.
Cool.
But then after that, Fripp started playing in a new band made up of a brand new group of musicians, including Adrian Belew, who's kind of like an American singer, Tone 11 bass player, and Bill Bruford. Not called King Crimson, but I believe called Discipline, which is where the title track comes from. But after a while, when we started playing, Fripp started to feel some of that old King Crimson magic kind of kicking in. So he relabels it King Crimson. The band is distinctly more influenced by the music of the day. And they released their third album, and the last one we're going to talk about today, Discipline, released in 1981. yeah, so what did you think of Discipline?
Loved it. It's a great album.
Yeah.
So yeah, this one straight away sounded to me, the singing at least, like Talking Heads.
Yeah,
Adrian Buford sounds exactly like David Byrne.
Yeah, completely. Yeah.
But yeah, it seems to like this one definitely does sound like Talking Heads or like any of the other sort of new wave bands at the time.
Yeah.
It's very clean sounding, poppy kind of sound. Even the lyrics, like the sort of emphasis on sort of like. Well, it's interesting, I suppose, because the lyrical conceit of Paranoia goes through this, and also like In the Court of the Crimson King as well.
Completely. I mean, what I like about it is like it sounds like Talking Heads, but it still feels like King Crimson. If that makes sense. Like it's definitely still like King Crimson album. Only Fripp can play the guitar in that way.
Yeah.
I love the bass playing on this album.
Yeah.
It's 211 plays a crazy instrument called the Chapman stick, which is like an upright. I sent I don't know if you've seen it, but like the Chapman stick is basically. I'll put a picture up on here if I can do. But it's like this upright bass, and you play it like with like your fingers like that. It's absolutely insane. And that's how we get stuff like like on Frame by Frame.
Yeah.
Like that incredible that's him playing the bass. Like,
jeez, I thought it'd be like some kind of like machine just reproduce like a drum machine or something.
No, that's 2011 playing absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
And it gives having all the songs such a drive, which is what I really love about this album.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting comparing it to because it's interesting with new wave. It's not as poppy as something like Blondie, which is also new wave. And with Talking Heads, it's not like the early albums haven't got very good production, and then when they get good production with Brian Eno, it moves more into world music, like Locked Grooves and sort of Locked Grooves mainly being the thing. And this sounds like a really well produced, with better musicians as well, because they sort of grew into it. So it sounds like, because it's interesting, because new wave was supposed to be non-musicians making like pop songs, where it had different, because they were less experienced. It was supposed to be like interesting in new wave and all, it's supposed to be against prog rock, like it's supposed to be getting back to pop music. So interesting that this prog rock band made sort of an amazing new wave album.
Well, that's the thing. I've always thought new wave has way more in common with prog than I think people kind of give it credit for, and maybe even musicians themselves. Because at the end of the day, some of it is quite complex music. Talking Heads is quite complex music to play.
Yeah, it's
all made up of this strange time signature. It's triophraphy. I'm not very musical, I'm sorry, but you can look it up. Which definitely King Crimson picks up on, especially on the end title track, Discipline.
Yeah.
It's built around a very, very simple refrain, but it kind of keeps this strange rhythm going. So I mean, Discipline's one that took me quite a while to come around to, I'll be honest, because I'm not as well versed in new wave. I've listened to bits and pieces and Talking Heads and stuff like that, but I'm not that well versed in it, and it is quite, you're listening to, even though Larks Tongue and Red, they are different to the early stuff, it still feels like progressive rock music, so it is quite a contrast, which I like. So yeah, I think it's a great album. It's really, really good. Those opening two songs are killer. They're great.
Elephant
Talk's great. Talk about different forms of communication, like enunciation. It sounds silly, but it works so well. I love it.
Yeah.
And Frame by Frame with its incredible bass playing, and the drive to that song is amazing. And Bill Bruford had been able to keep up and play these really weird, strange drum patterns.
The one after is really good, and all with the In Bad America. What's it called?
Yeah. There's Mate Kudasai as well.
Yeah.
Which is a slower one, which I think is really great as well. It's got a great sound to it.
Yeah.
I love Fela Hun Jinjit as well. There's one which I actually didn't listen to it before recording this, but there's one which is an instrumentation, but there's an audio clip of Adrian Belew listening to the new tracks on the album when he's going to the studio, and he's confronted by some people, and he records the argument. I can't remember which one it is now. I think it might be Fell Out on Gingy or The Shelter in Sky. It's one of them. But basically, Adrian Bell was just walking through, funnily enough, I think probably New York or something.
I think it is the fella Hunjin. I don't know if you're going to pronounce that.
Yeah. No idea. But it's he recorded an actual competition he had with some people, and we put it onto the album. So again, the idea of paranoia, I think, really plays through the album, like communication and especially with Elephant Talk and stuff.
Yeah.
And then it ends with a couple of instrumentals.
I thought this sort of it did lose it sort of a little bit near the end, with the instrumentals weren't as interesting, but it's overall a great album.
Yeah,
and I probably like them more as I listen back to them.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. I think this one is massively ahead of its time as well. Like, I'm assuming did this get like a mixed reception when it came out, and now it's better liked, or?
Let me take a look. I think most people kind of pretty much liked it. I think any critics who kind of, because the thing is it's hard to gauge because it's so much of it is like I received mixed to positive reviews. So yeah, people have definitely come around to it though. I think probably a lot of it kind of comes from maybe some of the slight snobbery from like music journalists from that time, kind of like, oh, this old dinosaur prog band are trying to be cool with new wave, and again, that's one of the nice things about, I think, me listening to music these days, where I think a lot of that is kind of gone.
Yeah.
It's more the level feels. Just you should listen to that kind of music, whatever.
Yeah.
It's up to you, isn't it?
Well, yeah, music criticism is probably better now than it used to be, where it'd be like
definitely.
some stoned hippie, or like I was some really uptight sort of English journalist who probably doesn't like music very much, reviewing prog albums, or like
Robert Chris Gower.
what's that? Lester Bangs, the one who's just like
yeah.
a complete mess, who were from Cream.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's they're trying to we're trying to do something different with the new wave sounds. And yeah, it's a great album. I got it here is Discipline.
Not as good a cover as the
Not quite
other
as
two.
good, but I suppose you're going for like a minimalist design.
So where do King Crimson go after Discipline?
In a shock to you, this version of the band starts to disintegrate as well.
Is there any member other than Robert Fripp who's in everything, or is it just him?
Just Fripp.
I heard that he offered to quit after the first album if the singers would stay.
So weird.
Yeah.
So after this version of the band does a couple more albums together, Beat and Free the Perfect Pair.
Mm-hmm.
Beat's a little bit more well regarded, Free the Perfect Pair isn't. I think both are okay to good. I actually don't think they're that bad. Similar style basically to Discipline. This version of the band disintegrates. Fripp goes off and does whatever the hell he wants, and then he comes back a few years later. Again, Fripp will only bring back King Crimson if he feels like there's music that's worth doing.
Yeah.
Even with him doing like all the touring, we're basically like a legacy band now. He's still pushing how the music sounds. So now he's got like 3 drummers and 2 guitar players. He's always pushing how it sounds, and he only feels like if there's music worth playing, he'll do it. So. So after that, the band comes back again in the mid-90s for Frack, which, while most classic prog bands, even classic rock bands from this period, really struggled in this era, Frack soars. Frack's great. It's the one that's made up of the twin band, you know what I mean? So 2 drummers, 2 bass players, 2 guitarists. Adrian Bellew comes back as well. It's a great album. It's really good, really fun to listen to. Lots of good stuff going on there. The band then kind of falls apart again, and they release The Construction of Light, widely regarded as being the worst one.
Worst album they've ever made, or of this era?
Worst one ever made.
Okay.
Because the band around this time, because there were so many members of Frack, they couldn't all keep schedules together.
Yeah.
Bill Bruford, plays on Frack and stuff, and after that, Robert Fripp basically come up with the idea of projects with a K instead of a C.
Yeah.
Where they'd be like subdivisions of King Crimson.
Yeah.
But it ended up getting too complicated and too cumbersome, and people just weren't into it, and Bill Bruford was like, you know what, I'm done. I'm just going to come up with like a jazz drummer, like whatever. So they kind of released The Construction of Light under this. I've not listened to it yet. I've actually not listened to the last 2. But I know it is widely regarded as being like the worst King Crimson album. They've recently done like a remix of it, where they've like replaced the drumming.
Yeah.
And done some extensive work to the way the album sounds. And then the last one we released was Power to Believe in 2003, which is meant to be pretty good, apparently.
Yeah.
Kind of more influenced by kind of what's going on with rock and metal around time, a little bit heavier, a little more texture, but I'm assuming with that kind of King Crimson style. After that, they've not done any new music. They tour quite extensively.
Yeah.
As I've mentioned, Fripp's brought it back recently with a newly revamped version of the band, who are maybe incredible. I really do want to see him live, just for the spectacle a bit more than anything. I wouldn't really dream of seeing any legacy band from that era who, past it, playing complete, like we're going to play this album type.
I hate it when they play a full album live.
I don't like that either.
Yeah.
Because you go see a band, you want to see them doing a whole mixture of stuff, and King Crimson was such a wealth of music to draw upon. They'd suck if they said, well, you know what, tonight we're just going to play Larks Tongues and Aspic.
Yeah.
That sucks, right?
Yeah, it sucks for that, and also, you know, albums aren't supposed to be listened to like live like that. Like, they usually do have something that only works when you like sit down and listen to it in the comfort of like, would you really want to see like all of Larks Tongues and Aspic like done live, or
really.
You know, like, I don't understand how it's any different from what you get at home. Anyway, yeah, that's
that's all the topic, yeah.
Yeah.
So as I said, so we're still going today. So basically, I'll talk about, I guess, briefly why I picked the ones that I did. So, Call the Crimson King is like the classic debut album, which starts it all. It's kind of the one you kind of got to listen to get where they came from. Larks Tongue, because it's kind of a more experimental edge, really nice indicator of where the band were, like in the mid 70s. And then Discipline on how Robert Fripp was able to essentially kind of like morph the band depending on the decade he was in, how he was able to change and move with the times, which keeps King Crimson relevant. Definitely more so than, like, let's say like Genesis, for example, which, you know, Genesis, compared to fucking Genesis in this era, you know, we're doing like all the Phil Collins era.
Is it Mother or
Mama?
Mama, that's it. Which
Yeah.
I only know because it's in GTA 4.
Yeah. I mean, I am a bit of a quiet defender of the Phil Collins era of Genesis, and maybe I'll talk about it one day, but it's definitely lamer than like what King Crimson were doing. You know, they were at least doing some, you know, some musically a bit more interesting.
Yeah.
So did you enjoy listening to the 3 albums?
I did, yeah. I'll definitely check out Larks Tongue and Discipline again. I feel like In the Call Crimson King's so big and hegemonic, it's like I don't really need to listen to it again.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
But yeah, the experimental side, definitely will be checking it out a lot more, yeah.
Yeah, so check out Starless and Bible Black. That is,
Yeah.
you know, if you like the experimentation of Larks Tongue, if it takes it to a kind of a new level, I think, with Starless and Bible Black.
Yeah.
Lots of good stuff on there.
Cool.
So that was that. I suppose we're not going to discuss this yet, but we might need to talk about what we're going to do next, I guess.
I have an idea for what we'll do for the next week one.
I already know what mine's going to be for you.
Yeah.
But I don't know what yours is.
Well, mine for you will be quite interesting, because I was thinking of the band Some Kill Moon, which are interesting because, well, there'll be a lot to talk about when we get to that, but I don't want it to just be the two white guys talk about white music and rock and stuff. So I thought, there's an artist that you've listened to quite a lot of his stuff, but I think it'll be very interesting to discuss a wider bunch of topics. It's quite a problematic artist, still going, rap music. I'm thinking Kanye West.
Oh wow!
Let's chart his career through 3 key releases, but because you've heard a bit of it anyway, we can go into other ones. But I think he's got a really interesting art career to chart in sort of 3 albums. So, well, first, what do you reckon would be? Because I get to choose. You should have chosen him if you wanted to. What would you think the 3 key ones would be? And we'll see if it'll be the same as what I'm thinking.
Okay. I would personally go. Tricky, to be honest, because you want to go for a full breadth. I'd go for Late Registration.
I'm going to choose that for the first 3, because the first 3 are relatively a cohesive block of sort of soulful rap music. Yeah.
You could do the one he did after, the slightly not well regarded one, but I would probably skip it personally and go for Dark Twisted Fantasy.
That's the second one, yeah. Because I think that the one in between that you're talking about, it's that 808s and Heartbreaks.
Yeah,
I think that's just moving towards the My Dark Twisted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then after that, Yeezers? As like the last, either or Life of Pablo.
Life of Pablo, I'm going to choose. And then, if there's time, the awful EP
I've not
Yee.
heard that yet.
It's only 20 minutes, so yeah, maybe we'll do a little digression at the end.
Kanye is just like, he's dead to me at this point. Like, he's just.
Well, I think that's what will be. Because I think the interesting thing about this will be, if it's stuff that we like, it can be like a little bit of a memory hole down to.
Trip down memory lane.
To speak of someone with a complicated history and stuff, I used to, like, around like My Dark Twisted, I thought, this guy's amazing, he must be the great living musician. And yeah, now he's a fucking joke, isn't he?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, he is. So I suppose, yeah, but that was interesting. That's the thing, it doesn't even necessarily have to be, I guess, like, music you're a person that listens to, as you say. It's Kanye as an artist that we're both fairly familiar with, so it would be quite fun just picking 3 albums from a band that or an artist that we like, and
Yeah.
going through it. So yeah, that sounds good to me. Yeah.
Will we be able to get the Halcyon days of 2004? I think when he did late registration.
Yeah.
Can we take that baggage away and stuff?
Yeah, it's still a great album.
One's still.
That's one of my favourites. Definitely my second favourite. I think after Dark Twisted.
You're giving the game away. We'll get into that.
We'll get into it next time. So. Yeah,
so now the curtain is closed.
And hopefully, unlike Robert Fripp, this version of Absence of Waldo won't disintegrate either.
Absence of Waldo.
Who's Waldo?